What's up, guys? I decided that I would do something I never said I would do again and give the Rocky IV Director's Cut another watch. And we're going to talk about it. Let's go.
He's not a machine! He's a man! Be more man than him!
I must break you.
Rocky is in serious trouble!
What's up, Drumdums Xtra members? First off, I just want to thank you guys for making this second channel what it is and making it fun. I wasn't sure, outside of clips, where I would go with this channel. But it's been really fun exploring different ideas and talking about different topics and coming up with, stuff like this, second viewing thoughts. I think it just keeps me interested in doing what I do, right? It's more of an extra creative outlet that won't get the main channel in too much trouble, which is the reason I created Drumdums Xtra in the first place. And then to have some of you say that you actually prefer this channel over the main channel, thank you. That is like the ultimate compliment. But for today's episode, we're going to talk about Rocky IV Director's Cut. I did sort of a review of that. It was more of kind of like me taking you with me to the theater where I found out that they weren't able to show the movie. Check out that video. I'll put a card here and you can check it out. And you can see the pain and suffering I went through that night and not being able to watch the movie until like freaking midnight when it finally debuted on Amazon Prime. But I found out today, I went and picked up my lunch and I was like, I always have to have something to watch for my lunch. And I thought, hey, why not? It's December 1st. This time frame of the year, I love to watch like Rocky movies. I don't know what it is. A lot of the Rocky movies take place around this time, which is really fun. So I decided I would go ahead and give this one, the Director's Cut, another go because I looked on my purchases on Amazon Prime and I forgot that I actually purchased the movie. And I was like, oh shit, well, here it is. Boom, let's give it a shot. And up front, because I like to tell you guys exactly what I think first and then kind of go through it with you. I know it might be the right way to do it is not tell you and then reveal my overall thoughts at the end of the video because that's what gets you to stay longer. But that would piss me off. So I'll tell you right now, this movie is frustrating. It is frustrating, and I don't mean that it's all bad. I think it's frustrating because there is some greatness in this. That's what I realized watching it again. I think this is my fourth time watching it. But it starts off so bad. Like so bad. And I think that's what kills me with this movie. I think if Stallone would have figured out what he wanted to do, or I guess not what he wanted to do because he knew what he wanted to do, but I think if he would have stopped and stepped back and said, hey, wait, hold on. From like 20 minutes on, this movie's really great. And dare I say, I won't say better than the theatrical version, but a nice alternative, right? It's not like giving you the same movie and then just adding a couple scenes. No, he really rearranged a lot about this movie. And if I can give credit where credit's due, Stallone, to be able to do that, and if you've watched the behind the scenes, it took him literally like months, maybe a year to finish this project. And it really is a project. Whether I like this movie or not, you have to give it to him, the credit. This is not a lazy edit at all. But I think it takes some big swings, and sometimes the swings don't really land. And unfortunately, the very beginning, he chooses to show a little bit too much of Rocky III. Showing Rocky lose and then Rocky win. And that just left me scratching my head. Yes, I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to set up how important of a character Apollo is. But here's the problem. We already know that. We already know how important Apollo is. That is established, I think, wholeheartedly in the theatrical cut of this movie. So it's almost like dumbing down the audience a little bit by doing that. And it also damages the pacing of this movie. And not just the pacing, but the rhythm, right? There's something about the Rocky movies. The best ones all have a really great rhythm to them. That doesn't mean they're all fast-paced, but there's purpose behind the rhythm of those movies. And I think, rhythmically speaking, this director's cut really suffers in that category. There are some nice Apollo moments, but everything before the fight with Apollo is a little jarring because it's so slow moving, and right away you see Apollo seeing Drago coming to the States, and then he's having dinner at Rocky's house. And I think we just spend way too much time in that area. And then finally we get to the fight, and that's where this movie really picks up. And I will even say the fight for Apollo in this movie is better than the fight in the theatrical version of the movie because it stretches itself out a little bit more. Apollo gets, more punches in the fight. You can see his passion and how important it was for him because that was established in the theatrical version. But it's not shown in the final fight as much as it is in the director's cut. So I think that's great stuff. And I will admit, and I didn't think I was going to say this before I gave this the fourth watch, but I was quite pleasantly pleased with this movie from this point on. I liked some of the editing choices. I liked the moment where Rocky's talking to Adrian and she tells him he can't win, and then he cuts it before he gives that little speech about he's going to have to kill me, and is he man enough to do that? He cuts that and he places that in the area where he gets to Russia, and he's thinking about, putting all the clippings on the mirror. And I think it's just showing Rocky's thought process better throughout this movie. And there's a few instances like that throughout this where he will chop certain scenes or certain audio and then place them at, I guess, what you could call appropriate moments, more appropriate moments. And I was hell-bent on being pro-robot for this, but giving it this watch, I couldn't really find a good spot for the robot. And hell, I think one thing that does suffer is you don't get as much Polly in this movie. And just because Polly occupies a lot of the robot space in the theatrical version of the movie. And I guess if you're going to have two different versions of an iconic movie like this, I see where Stallone was going, trying to make them as different as possible tone-wise, even removing certain elements like the robot. And there's other scenes like in the Apollo fight when they introduce Rocky and the crowd goes nuts. Stallone removed that. And I thought that was pretty cool of him to do that, making it more about just Apollo. This isn't about introducing how much of a badass Rocky is and the crowd going nuts. No, that's for later in the movie, and I think it makes it more effective later in the movie when the Russian crowd starts coming around to Rocky. I think the biggest correction that I have to give myself this time around watching this movie is I was really, really hard on the funeral scene for Apollo. I felt like Rocky's performance was a little bit too much in the director's cut. But watching it this time, I think the one thing that I didn't focus on enough was Tony Burton's performance before Stallone gave his speech. Tony Burton, I think what he said in that scene was so impactful. Apollo's reasoning, and really a warrior's reasoning for doing the things that they do that normal people don't understand. And I think Duke encapsulated that in just that little speech, beautifully. And I think it's even better than the more emotional speech of Rocky directly after. And maybe it propped up Rocky's speech a little better because I didn't mind it as much this time. And then lastly, on the final fight, I think the final fight is great. I think the training montage has a couple of nice little extra moments. The only thing that I still have a problem with in the final fight is the very end when Rocky wins and then he does that jump and he has this weird face on and it almost deflates the fight before it. Whereas I think in the theatrical cut, his reaction after was, beautifully done. The speech was better. I do like in the director's cut how he gives Drago kind of a fist bump because this movie does, I think, make Drago a little bit more human. And I think that depends on what you want out of the villain in this movie. If you want Drago to be more of a machine and a robot, then the theatrical is the way to go. But if you want him to be more humanized, then this is definitely the version to go with. So, yeah, I'm always honest with you, and I'm a very emotional movie watcher. And when I watch movies, I feel like I notice something different every time I watch them. Hell, when I watch the original Halloween, I still notice differences every single time I watch it. And I love that about my movie-going experiences, okay? And I like, expressing that to you guys and letting you guys know where my mind is on any given movie at any time. So as far as if it's better than the theatrical cut, no, I still highly prefer the theatrical, but I did find some enjoyment in the director's cut this time around. And shout out to Jason Nike, who is a big fan of this cut. And let me know down in the comments, which cut do you prefer? Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day on Fridays with you for Fridays. Follow my Drumdums and on my socials. Support me on Patreon. Buy me a coffee. And you guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a good day, and Drumdum out.